Here in the House, we continue to make the American people's priorities our priorities. Last week, we passed a strong bill to support our troops and ensure that the Congress and the people have the ability to review any potential agreement with the Iranians. And with new gains made by ISIL in Ramadi, hope is not a strategy. The president's plan isn't working. It's time for him to come up with a real overarching strategy to defeat the ongoing terrorist threat. And while our economy has shown signs of improvement, middle-class families aren't seeing the improvement in their day-to-day lives. We need sustained, robust economic growth, and that's why this week the House will pass real pro-growth policy, research, development, and innovation. Our focus has to be on helping the middle class get ahead, not just get by.
Before we talk about this week, we do need to look at what was accomplished last week, just on the House floor. Dealt with Iran sanctions, national defense authorization to prepare us for the 21st century, transforming the Pentagon and others, making sure we have the resources needed going into the future. FISA, USA Freedom, 338 votes in the House. That is beyond veto proof and a strong showing about where the American people are on the issue. Looking at this week, you know, Steve Jobs once said, innovation distinguishes between leaders and followers. That's true for people and also true for countries. You know, America has always been innovative because we take the principles of the past and apply them to a changing future. And this week we're actually showing that capability. Now the American people know innovation does not come from Washington. And there's no better example of what Washington tried to do in the early 1900s, providing Langley with money to actually invent flight, while two small business owners and brothers on the beaches of North Carolina took to flight. Well, this week we're enhancing that, knowing that innovation comes in garages, comes in ideas, and comes all across, maybe even on a college campus. So this week we'll have R&D tax credit, making it permanent. We'll also have the American Competes Act and the Space Act. All of those helping transform, making sure America stays innovative and moves us into the 21st century.
As we celebrate Innovation Week, House Republicans continue to move legislation that strengthens innovation in our country. But the biggest threat to American innovation is the mountain of radical regulations that come out of Washington. If you just look at the impact on small businesses alone, it costs small businesses more than $10,000 per employee just to comply with the radical regulations coming out of Washington. So as we move against a trade bill so that America can have a better opportunity to compete globally, innovation is going to continue to lead the world. And by strengthening the rules of the game, we're going to allow American companies to succeed and compete even better. But we also need to continue to reverse the trend, the dangerous trend, coming out of Washington of these top-down radical regulations that are hurting the bottom-up innovation of our American innovators. We continue to focus on that, allow America to continue to compete and succeed.
Our priority has been to promote an opportunity economy. And America has always inspired me as being this innovation country, a country where individuals have those ideas in the garages or on the college campuses and can turn them into a reality, an idea to improve our lives, improve products, whatever it may be. And next week I'll be headed home to Eastern Washington, spending some time. You know, I'm always inspired by the innovative approaches that I see, whether it's in education, whether it's in our healthcare system, startup companies. But what happens here on Capitol Hill also impacts whether or not people have the confidence to take those risks, turn those ideas into a reality. So I am excited to join in supporting the legislation this week that is really promoting a ground-up approach to growing our economy, whether it's innovation in science, space, technology, innovation to spur research and development, innovation that encourages across the country to pioneer those new technologies, discover new treatments, and launch the startups. You know, I come from the Pacific Northwest, where we have a large technology base, but we also have that pioneering spirit. And I am reminded whenever I meet these people that this starts with people. The innovation that we celebrate in this country starts with people, smart, hardworking, creative people that have ideas. Same thing applies on Capitol Hill with public policy. It's smart, hardworking, creative ideas to make sure that America remains that opportunity country moving forward.
Not only does America have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, it's also one of the few countries that allow various provisions of our tax code, like research and development, to expire on a regular basis. Congress has gotten into a self-defeating habit of continually extending tax provisions on a short, temporary, and even worse case, on a retroactive basis. And as a CPA, I worked with businesses that are small and large, and I know this is no way to write tax policy. These businesses don't have a crystal ball and simply can't plan because the uncertainty in Washington is holding them back. This week, the House will vote to make the research and development tax credit permanent. It is important to American innovation, and providing some permanency is the stability they need to invest in the United States economy, creating good-paying jobs, fostering a healthy, bottom-up economy, increasing for hardworking Americans.
The Science, Space, and Technology Committee could well be called the Innovation Committee. About 80% of the $40 billion in agency funding that we oversee goes to research and development. And of course, research and development fuels that innovation that we all want. If we do our jobs right, we're going to increase America's productivity, create jobs, and improve American standard of living. 6 suspension bills on the floor. They're coming up actually tonight. They range from weather forecasting to science prizes. We also have 2 major bills coming up this week as well. One is the Space Act, introduced by the Majority Leader. It is, of course, the most important bill we will consider this year. The Space Act really does a lot to try to advance space commercialization. The commercialization of space is the next frontier. We want to encourage that. We want to reduce some regulations. We want to reduce the liability they might incur and try to stimulate that sector of our economy. So space commercialization is critical to America's future. The other major bill is the Competes bill. This is a bill that deals with civilian research and development, and it focuses on agencies, Department of Energy and the National Science Foundation. Within the Department of Energy, we actually increase spending for basic research by $270 million, and we tried to eliminate some of the governments wanting to pick winners and losers. In the National Science Foundation, we have $250 million increase for basic research there. We want to emphasize the hard sciences. We want to emphasize the breakthroughs that those kinds of investments generate and the kind of innovations that they result in as well. So lots of good bills from the Science Committee this week. I will say that all bills fall within or adhere to the spending caps of the Budget Control Act, as we should. That's the law of the land. It was signed by the President. Those who want to increase spending across the board are frankly just not used to setting priorities, but that is our responsibility. And again, the emphasis is research and development for basic research, which is good for America and good for America's innovation.
Congressman Gint has been fined $15,000 by the FEC in order to refund this money that he's taken out of this account. Do you have confidence in him to serve in the House, or do you believe that he should resign?
I think all members should be held to the highest ethical standards. Details of this case yet, but I'm expecting to see them soon.
Speaker Boehner, you said you want to see a concrete plan for the Obama administration regarding ISIS. Is it safe to say the AUMF is stalled? What would you like to see specifically? And are you comfortable with young men on the ground like they were in Syria this weekend without an AUMF?
Well, first let me say that I applaud the efforts of our special forces who conducted a very successful mission over the weekend without casualties and without injuries. The President's request for an authorization of the use of calls for less authority than he has today. I just think, given the fight that we're in, it's irresponsible. This is why the president, frankly, should withdraw the authorization of use of military force and start over. We don't have a strategy. And for those of you that come to these regularly, for over 2 years now, I've been calling on the president to develop an overarching strategy to deal with this growing terrorist threat. We don't have one. And the fact is, the threat is growing faster than what we and our allies can do to stop it.
Speaker Boehner, as you know, Leader McConnell doesn't support what the House passed, the USA Freedom Act on the NSA surveillance programs, and wants a straight extension. That can't pass. Your friend, Senator Burr, is actually working on a compromise. Are you open to having the House vote on something other than what the House passed?
The House had an overwhelmingly large vote for the USA Freedom Act. It's time for the Senate to act. And, I don't try to suggest what the Senate should or shouldn't do, but the Senate needs to act, and when they act, we'll look at the next step.
Are you ruling out some sort of even short-term extension just to get...
The House has acted. It's time for the Senate to act.
Last question.
Mr. Speaker, on that end, following up on Luke's question, though, you asked for so long for the president to send an AUMF. He did. You don't like it. He said he should start over. What makes you think, though, that if this fight is so critical, Congress is always talking about asserting itself in these issues, not ceding power to the administration. If this is so important and a matter of life and death and national security, why doesn't Congress then get more involved and say, okay, we're going to take the bull by the horns here?
We have one commander-in-chief at a time. It's the president's responsibility to wage this battle. And the president, in my view, is not taking this threat as seriously as it should. When a major city in Iraq, Ramadi, gets overrun by ISIL, and the administration does just a temporary setback, it's 70 miles from Baghdad. It's time for the president to get serious about this threat to Americans and our allies. Thanks.